Friends, first impressions are always important, and the most important case of them ever was video game box art. Now they say not to judge a book by its cover, but back in the early 90s, that's just about all we had to go by. You see, the Super Nintendo preceded the internet being widely accessible to the public by a couple of years, so we didn't have review websites. We did have issues of Nintendo Power, but those were monthly and not always timely enough to help you pick out a game for your birthday or Christmas or Hanukkah or what have you. Or perhaps even more importantly, what to rent on Friday nights after school. A trip to the video store in the early 90s was a game of Russian roulette, and it frequently came down to two things: what was left on the store shelves when you got there, and what had the coolest looking box art. Let's take a look back at 8 of the raddest, baddest, coolest box arts for the Super Nintendo. Welcome back to Space Castle, where it's our mission to explore all things nerdy in the universe. I am your Captain DT. Now, if you grew up in the era of Super Nintendo or you spent a lot of time playing retro games, you're gonna want to go ahead and just hit that subscribe button. If you're a fan of movies, games, TV shows, and pop culture in general, yeah, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Now, I'm only going to comment on the box art for American Super Nintendo releases in this video because I'm an uncultured swine and I just don't have any real reference or nostalgia for Super Famicom or PAL region releases of games. These all come from my own childhood memories and the mixed experiences that came from being sucked in to these games by their awesome box art. Let's get into it. Number 1 is Secret of Mana. Now, Square in the 90s was unstoppable. The very presence of their logo on an SNES box meant a grand and massive world to explore, filled with wonderful characters and adventures. Secret of Mana was no exception, a super fun action-style RPG with kind of a shitty menu system, but a fun story, addictive gameplay, the right amount of challenge, and even a multiplayer component. 10 out of 10, awesome game. But the box art is something really special. Now, most people think of Yoshitaka Amano when Squaresoft comes to mind, but this absolute masterpiece was painted by Hiro Isono, who would provide art for multiple games in the Mana saga. Now, unfortunately, not much is known about the man himself. He remains something of a mystery, but his ability to create incredibly detailed and lush jungle and forest scenes not only set the tone for one of my favorite games of all time, but cemented him as one of the greatest artists in video game history. The cover for Secret of Mana immediately evokes a sense of adventure wherein the main characters are featured but are tiny up against the massive backdrop of the Mana Tree, which is not only daunting but beautiful and intriguing. The sense of scale that Isono brought to this piece of art perfectly encapsulated the scope and wonder of Secret of Mana. Number 2 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4: Turtles in Time. I still remember the day I got Turtles in Time for my birthday. My grandparents surprised me with a copy, and there was no stopping me from plugging it into the family Super Nintendo right then and there and playing it for like a week straight. To this day, the game is still regarded as not only one of the best Ninja Turtle games ever, but one of the best beat-em-up games, period. The first aspect of this kick-ass game to smack you silly is the fantastic box art. It was painted by Tom Dubois, who would come to be known as a master of cover art and the genius behind this and many other Konami classics. Get used to seeing this face, because Tom will be appearing in this video multiple times. This man who created one of the most kinetic and badass pieces of Ninja Turtle art ever. Look at this! Look how f***ing awesome and fierce and ugly the turtles look! Look at the level of detail in the locomotive train and the Statue of Liberty. There's a foot soldier riding a snarling, drooling dinosaur. And this was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, already a franchise loved by everybody in the world, and Turtles in Time was already a smash hit in arcades. This game was already going to sell like crazy, and the box art did not have to go this hard. But it did, and I love Tom Dubois for giving it 110%. By the way, hit the comments down below and tell me which turtle was your go-to in Turtles in Time. Number 3 is Chrono Trigger. Dude, it's peak Akira Toriyama. Of course, Chrono Trigger was going to be on this list. One of the most legendary Japanese pop culture artists of all time, he shaped ridiculous amounts of nerdy culture in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Not least of which is the art and style for many fantastic video games like the Dragon Quest series and Chrono Trigger. The kinetic style of this cover art is just signature Toriyama. With Chrono, Frog, and Marl performing a triple tech move to take down a monster, Chrono leaps off of Frog's back as Marl... Yeah, everybody likes to point out that Marl shouldn't be casting Fire Sword. Look, the artwork was created early on in the production of the game as a concept piece, but it was just too badass not to use and keep for the cover. I don't care that it's not entirely accurate. I mean, f***ing Phalanx has a hillbilly playing a banjo on its cover and nobody ever complains about that. Let's get over it. The game itself is a masterpiece, and this cover art, like that with just about every Squaresoft game in this era, did not mislead us at all. But let's talk about misleading for a minute here. Let's talk about DinoCity. Now, first of all, DinoCity is a good game. It's not especially challenging or memorable, but it's a fun time and there's no serious issues with it. Aside from the fact that this box art is dope as hell and every 90s kid's wildest dream. Being a cool skateboarder in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, listening to sick tunes with a best friend who is a dinosaur wearing a leather jacket. Holy fuck! I grew up in an era where kids were ninjas and can beat up organized crime syndicates, and the idea of dinosaurs being brought back to life with science was a serious cautionary tale. I wanted to be the kid in this box art. We all wanted this game, and to live this life, and instead, DinoCity looks like this. But again, it's a totally decent game. But this box art by David Harto is not only one of my favorite pieces of video game art, but one of my favorite pieces of art from the 90s period. I look at it and I'm transported back to a time when you can feed your entire family at Taco Bell for $1.25 and you had tingly feelings for Kelly Kapowski that you didn't fully understand.
You still have tingly feelings for Kelly Kapowski that you don't understand.
Who doesn't? Up next is yet another iconic piece of 90s video game art, and welcome back, Tom Dubois. Number 5 is Contra III: The Alien Wars. Now, when you Google Tom Dubois, what you largely get is collections of biblical artwork depicting various famous scenes and stories from the good book. But when he wasn't painting Noah saving 2 of every animal, or Adam and Eve in the serenity of the Garden of Eden, he was painting bad motherfuckers in tank tops and headbands, single-handedly saving the world from giant cyborg aliens. Yeah! Look at this! This is the most hype cover art anybody has ever seen. 2 crazy assholes with murder on their minds just here to blow up aliens wholesale. You've got these parademon-looking sons of a bitches being way more detailed than they need to be, this Satan-incarnate monster filling up the entire sky, and this giant blue robot skeleton who's popping out like, "Hey guys, what's going on out here?" before likely realizing that real shit is happening out here, and he doesn't want any part of it, and he better close that door before John Bernthal and Corey Feldman on steroids ends him.
Are you alright? Do you need a drink? Some water, perhaps?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I just really miss the 90s. Number 6 is Star Fox. Okay, now I know a lot of people look at this box art for Star Fox and think that it's too minimalist and kind of boring to be on this list, but hear me out. See, I have kind of a weird fascination with the Star Fox puppets that Nintendo created in 1992 to be used into promotional materials and box art for Star Fox. They were created because Shigeru Miyamoto was a big fan of shows like the Thunderbirds and wanted that sort of vibe to carry over onto Star Fox. So these puppets are so weird and awesome looking, and I've always loved them. Having been a kid enthralled by the works of Jim Henson and everything from the Muppets to Labyrinth to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, these weird Star Fox puppets resonated with me, and I always wanted like a TV show or something featuring them. I've done a bunch of research, and no one seems to know where these pieces ended up or if they even still exist. I mean, chances are they just kind of degraded and fell apart over the years and just aren't around anymore. But they made for such interesting branding and such a distinct box art that it made Star Fox stand out on the shelf as something interesting and fun and unique. And the game absolutely was that. If anybody has any information on these Star Fox puppets and whether or not they exist anymore, please give me a shout. Number 7 is Super Castlevania 4. I am really gonna have to reach out to Tom Dubois and thank him for creating such huge parts of my childhood, and also see what his commission rate would be to create some Space Castle artwork. I am positive that I cannot afford him because holy crap, Tom might just be the king of Super Nintendo box art. Super Castlevania 4's box art is nothing short of iconic. Ushering Simon Belmont into the 16-bit era, this epic painting ignited the imaginations of kids everywhere in 1991. Swinging from his whip through a throng of nightmarish creatures, there's equal parts determination and maybe a little bit of fear in Simon's face as he evades a Hydra, the floating head of Medusa, some skeleton knights, and Dracula himself looking on menacingly in the background. Tom Dubois' ability to pull such kinetic and frantic art from his brain and put it down onto a canvas is just remarkable. Every single piece just as metal as f*** as the one that came before it. All of the video game covers he produced in the 90s is worthy of being printed at poster size and hung up on your wall. And finally, we reach the end of my top 8 examples of SNES box art, and number 8 is The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Now, I love this art for entirely different reasons than the previous 7 pieces on this list. You might be thinking to yourself that this bit of cover art is just the logo for the game and not really that complex or dynamic, and not worthy of being considered one of the best. And to that I say, this cover art has so much confidence and swagger and class that there's no way it's not on this list. It's Zelda. By the time A Link to the Past arrived on the scene, it was already one of the most iconic and beloved video game franchises of all time. All Shigeru Miyamoto had to do was just write New Zelda on Sharpie on a blank box, and that's all we needed. Or deserved. Instead, we got this epic logo with a sword and a shield set against the all too familiar gold background, as if to say, we didn't have to put this much effort into this, it's a new Zelda game, and you're welcome. And the confidence and cleanliness of this box art is matched only by the polished and masterfully crafted game inside. Possibly the best Zelda game still to this day, and still the favorite amongst millions of Zelda fans. A Link to the Past is a top-tier Super Nintendo experience. And this box art, for its simplicity and restraint, still ushers in wonderful, warm feelings of nostalgia for people of all ages. And probably will forever. And there you have it, the definitive and indisputable list of top 8 SNES box art. Clearly this list is perfect and beyond reproach, but if you think you got something better, hit up those comments down below and let's hear it. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video and if you'd like to see more. And thanks as always to the Galactonaut crew at patreon.com/spacecastleshow for their incredible, wonderful support. If you would like to join the ranks of the finest group of people on the internet, check the link in the description. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching and hanging out with me on Space Castle, where it's our mission to explore all things nerdy in the universe. I'm your Captain DT, signing off.